Ma'at Hotep. I am Satra Niteret Kefa Abe Menunk Ma'at. The title of this video is called The Killing of the Gods, Making of the Slaves. What I've come to realize throughout some time and self-study is that we are very conditioned people, and I'm speaking of the Black nation, because right now that's what I have to always speak on as of this moment, because these are my people, and I need to make sure that this information is shared so that you can learn and discern what it is that you need to do for your life. When I say the killing of the gods and the making of the slaves, we're able to relate to what happened over 300 years ago in slavery, when our forefathers, our ancestors, came from Africa. Well, excuse me, let me change that. They were taken from Africa and brought over into a ship over here into what they call the Americas. And slavery began for here again. And we can relate to that, and it's something that's very close. Now, in the slavery time frames, there's, as a lot of us now know, and if you don't know, please go and Google it, go to Amazon, research it, the Willie Lynch letter. And this is about a man who came down and was on the Jamestown River and sat there and actually spoke to a whole bunch of the slave owners at that time. And in this letter or the statement that he made, he basically gave a detailed instruction on how to make a slave. And one of the things that always stood out the most, and if you have not heard of it all, please go check out the movie The Great Debaters with Denzel Washington. He speaks on this, and he, as the great actor that he is, made it good so that you could feel it. But basically, there's this one part where he says that Willie Lynch said to the slave owners, you take the biggest, blackest, and strongest man, tar him and feather him, and then they tied ropes to his wrist and to his ankles and connected them to horses, slapped the horses while the horses ran different directions and tore him apart, as they also demasculated him by cutting off his penis. Now, this was done in front of the black woman because they understood what that meant to do this in front of the black woman. This would make her protective of her offspring, especially her male. So if she has boys, then her boys are going to grow up to be a little weak. They're going to not want to stand up for themselves, because she's going to teach them not to stand up for yourself and not to ever go against the white man, because if you do, this is what's going to happen to you. And this is how they did this, because they understood the power of the black woman. And if she was to have young girls, that she would teach them to make sure that when she has her children, to teach her children the same thing. So it was a very ingenious idea if you really think about it. But then something really dawned on me when I started thinking about, when I talked to my spiritual friend, we sit and we talk about a lot of different things, and the Bible is one of them. And we were talking about Jesus the Christ and what happened to him and the storyline that came with that. And for most of y'all who do not know, and please research it, you don't have to take what I'm saying as gold. Please research what I'm saying to you. That the story, the original story, the origin came from the Usarian story, which is a Kemetic story. And you're going to hear a lot about Kemet because it's growing and people are growing and awakening to it. But from there, the story was also taken from one of our own, our brother, which was a rabbi. His name was Yeshua. Yeshua had went around and did basically the same things that you hear or read in the story of Jesus the Christ, and all that he did in teaching the Gospels and helping people to wake up so that they can connect back to the One Most High. Well, unfortunately, they killed him. They hung him on a tree. And they took that story after they had heard about him. And when Constantine and many others met up at the Council of Nicaea, that they decided to take this man's story and put it together and actually sat down and thought about how they were going to make out the the story of Jesus when they gave him that name. Now, for many of you who do not know, that the face that you have seen throughout the years of Jesus the Christ is actually Serapis in Rome, and they took his story as well. But what made it so interesting in my thoughts that I came into being was thought how ingenious they are and intricate in design on their thought processes on how they created the systems within the systems to make sure that whatever they're about to do, that they got a backup plan. And I can feel you if you feel mad about the fact of what they've done to our people throughout time, you know. And I'm not saying that I have any level of respect for the fact that these people who did this to our people, but just it's ingenious on the system that they came up with. When you read the Bible, whether it's the King James Version or the NIV Bible or whatever it is, I want y'all to sit back and think about something. In the Bible, when they talk about the story of Jesus the Christ, and when he came into being and becoming to know who he realized who he was, which was a God on earth, which is the same as someone who is becoming Usair, because everybody can become a God on earth. But unfortunately, the Christian religion, they teach you that you cannot become that. And the reason why they did that, remember, in the Willie Lynch letter, please get this. Willie Lynch made sure to tell the slave owners, to teach the slaves their religion, their way of life, and to not question anything. So everything that our ancestors learned, they were taught by the people who enslaved them. And one of those things that was taught that they were very intelligent on was to take that story of Jesus the Christ, and when they beat him and did all the things that the Romans were very good at doing, because everybody knows that the Romans were #1 at torture. But they did that to what they call the Son of God, and beat him in front of people to prove that he was not a God, because back then they did not understand what it truly meant to be a God. Because it's not about having these extraordinary supernatural powers. It's not about that. It's about your knowledge base. It's about knowing what you can do. And there are things that we are able to do, because you must understand that we have the quality of the One Most High, but not the quantity of the One Most High. He is like, the One Most High is like the ocean, and we are like a drop of water. It's made out of the same thing. We just able to do less. But anyway, what they did is the humans killed the Son of God. And to prove that point, they originally hung him on a tree, but put him up on a cross. And throughout time period, you have people now who still wear the cross, and some people still bear the cross that has the Jesus the Christ on their hanging. And it's to remind you to never become the son of God or the daughter of God, to never realize who you truly are. And as long as you do that, you will never have to suffer the consequences of what Jesus the Christ did. You will never have to worry about being hung, or put on a cross, or shot, stabbed, and all these different things. Stay in your place as a human. Do not go above that. And being that they made sure to teach that to our people, because we are naturally born gods and goddesses of this earth, they knew what they were doing. So they pushed that religion onto our people to make sure that you would fall in love and put all your trust and all your weight and all your thoughts into Jesus the Christ, and to make sure that you do not follow suit to Jesus the Christ. And then they took that story and did a backup plan just to make sure that you don't, by treating the slaves as they did what they did to the big black male there was in slavery. And each of them had to go through that in each of their plantations. Now think about that. Think about what I just said. You can relate to the slavery times. You can relate to what happened to our ancestors and how they did what they did to them. And that was horrible, and it was terrible, and it should not have happened. But I need y'all to truly think about that. Because all they did is duplicated what was written in the Bible about Jesus the Christ. And now they wanted to make sure that you will never become the God or goddess that you were meant to be, that you were born to be, and that all your ancestors before us were and still are. So think about that. Go back to your story. Go back into the New Testament. Read about Jesus the Christ and his story. Remember what happened to him. Go back, research, and find out who Yeshua was and learn what happened to him. Go back and research the Willie Lynch letter and read what happened on how they created a slave, because it's called the Willie Lynch letter, making of a slave. So what they have done to our people is that they killed the god or the goddesses and made slaves, and it's still continuing on today. I hope you really think about what I'm saying to you. From my heart to you, from my spirit to your spirit, in divine love, Ma'at Hotep. I'm Kefa Ab Menuk Ma'at. I hope to talk to you again soon. Hotep.